Hi, my name's Daryl, and here's your Jeep news for June 17th. So really one story today, and it actually isn't really news. It's kind of more like conjecture because nobody really knows and nobody's given up the goods on the announcement tomorrow. So if you don't know, Stellantis is making some sort of, I think it's actually going to be huge news tomorrow. Now, supposedly, it has nothing to do with product, which is kind of interesting. So it's going to have something to do with the Stellantis brand. And so a lot of folks have really been, I know TK's Garage has been trying to figure this out. Butter, the Insider, has been trying to figure this out. And both of them kind of thought it had something to do with maybe Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram separating. And I think that actually is true, but I think there's more to the story. So the first thing, this is what I think is going to happen tomorrow. Stellantis has actually been meeting with the Trump administration over the last couple of days. And so I feel like something is happening. Now, I don't think it has anything to do with emissions, although emissions is actually kind of a little piece of it. But I think what they're planning on doing is announcing something in regards to manufacturing and where Stellantis manufactures their vehicles. Now, one of the major products that Stellantis manufactures is their heavy-duty trucks, and they manufacture the heavy-duty trucks in Mexico. I've got a feeling that those heavy-duty trucks are going to be moving from Mexico, as well as the engine production from Mexico to North America or to the United States. Now, I'm looking at this Stellantis, kind of where they have their manufacturing operations at. And so you can see that the Ram heavy-duty trucks, so the 25, 35, 4500, and et cetera, it's manufactured in Mexico. I feel like that they're going to make a major announcement that they're going to be moving these vehicles, at least the ones for North America, and they're going to be moving it to the Warren Truck Assembly in Michigan. So I think that's one of the major announcements that they're going to make. The second major announcement that I think they're also going to make is this plant in Belvidere, Illinois. It has been shuttered since February of 2023. Now, right towards the end of President Biden's term, Stellantis was awarded somewhere around $430 million, $334 million. And actually they did this to more than just Stellantis. They gave it to GM as well, but it was really about EV manufacturing. And Trump, he doesn't want to have anything to do with EVs. He wants to move manufacturing to the United States. Doesn't want to have the EV incentives anymore. They're getting ready to kill that. Heck, if you own an EV, you're actually going to be taxed more because you're not spending money on gas. So what I feel like that's going to happen, and I said that they were meeting with the Trump administration, I think they're going to take that money because they had shuttered that money. They basically had stopped it. I think they're going to restart that program and give that money to Stellantis and probably a little bit more to reopen the Belvidere plant, maybe faster than in 2027. And so what are they going to build there? Well, we all know that the Trump has been having issues with both Mexico and Canada and wants to move manufacturing from those locations to the United States. So yeah, let's move production from the Windsor plant. Let's move production of the Chrysler Pacifica as well as the new Dodge Charger Daytona, which is an EV. Let's move those to that Belvidere assembly plant. But they're not going to be EVs anymore, right? We're going to put an internal combustion engine in there. You're going to put Hemi engines in there. And I think they're also going to announce all of those engines, the Hemi engines that they're putting back into the Charger and into the Ram 1500, those are also going to be built in the United States. And so I really think that's what's going to be announced tomorrow. One of the major announcements is basically moving as much production, at least production of the typical Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram products that are currently made outside of the United States, and now making them inside of the United States, as well as the engines. So that's the first thing that they're going to do, I think. So my second thing that I think is going to happen, and both Butter the Insider and TK's Garage, they did talk about this, and we've been talking about this for a long time, is the possibility of Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram breaking away from the Stellantis brand. So still kind of having them under the umbrella of a Stellantis, but having them be their kind of own entity. And there's been news that broke just, I think, yesterday or the day before yesterday about how the previous CEO, Carlos Tavares, had signed a deal with California that they were going to have to stick to the California regulations. And so I guess most of the manufacturers don't have to follow the California regulations anymore, but Stellantis does. However, if it's no longer Stellantis and it's Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, and that goes away. So that would make Trump happy. That would certainly make Stellantis happy to not have to worry about that and bring back the internal combustion engines. So I think there's going to be an announcement about Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram breaking away from Stellantis and being their own brand, and they're going to prioritize the decision-making, being its own separate entity within Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. And as well as, so the new CEO of Ram, Tim Kuniskis, I believe he is going to be named the Chief Executive Officer of Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. So that's one of the things that both Butter and TK's Garage that they think is going to happen, and I happen to agree with them. The other thing that I think might happen as part of this is now that Tim Kuniskis, he would move to CEO of Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, you know, it kind of leaves a hole within the Ram leadership. It could be the case that they decide, Stellantis decides, or Tim Kuniskis now decides, to take the Dodge Ram separate entities and just make it one again. So make it Dodge, make it Ram, take Matt McAleer, who currently is the Chief Executive Officer of Ram, and make him head of that whole brand. And that would streamline things a little bit. Now, I don't know if that makes sense, because Ram is kind of more like trucks, and then Dodge is more like the kind of the muscle cars and stuff like that. But maybe, I'm not sure. That's just kind of something that I thought, with Tim Kuniskis leaving, maybe, and being CEO of Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, maybe that simplifies things or not. So that was just kind of a guess there, but we'll see if that happens to come true. So it's going to be really interesting tomorrow, whether or not, I've figured this out, because I have been thinking about it quite a bit. I think I mentioned that there's been a lot of YouTubers that, are kind of, I guess they're the prime time YouTubers, and they have good relationships with Stellantis, so Stellantis flies them out to the press events and stuff like that. They supposedly know already what's happening, but they're not giving up the goods. And so now we're just kind of left for guessing, and tomorrow we'll find out for sure, and we'll find out if I'm right. So I'll likely do another video tomorrow about the news that's going to be breaking, whatever it might be, and I have a couple of other kind of pieces of news as well. This is Daryl with your Jeep News, and well, I'll see you tomorrow.